So, hello and welcome to the second in our series of webinars today, which is all about children's campaign heroes. My name is Andrew Hadfield Ames, and I'm going to be chairing this session today on behalf of Can Digital. But until recently, I've been working for a number of county councils, and I'm also vice chair of LG Comms. This is part of a series mainly aimed at county councils and combined authorities, but we don't want to exclude anyone. We're always interested in your views during these sessions. So please do come forward with comments throughout the session, and I'll be taking questions at the end of this. So on to today's session. Really pleased that we've got first up Danielle Taylor, who's a campaigns specialist who created and developed and designed the Little Heroes campaign at Staffordshire County Council. Over to you, Danielle.
Hello everyone, nice to meet you all, and thank you all for joining today. I'll just share my screen and apologise in advance that I do have a little dog working from home, so if he does start barking, feel free to enjoy the entertainment. But just check that everyone can see that.
Yes, we can.
Smashing.
Thanks.
Smashing. So welcome to my Little Heroes campaign. It won 2 awards at the Comms 2.0 UnAwards in December for Best Creative and Behaviour Change. To my absolute amazement, I've never won anything in my life. So I'll just talk you through why it won, basically. Would help if the slides would change when I ask it to. There we go. So the background of the campaign was we had a councillor come to us and say we need to increase school attendance. That was it. That was the brief, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that kind of brief. So we went and had a look at the background to see why we needed to increase school attendance, what was happening, why has there been a drop. And it seemed to be since COVID and that there was a drop in school attendance, and school attendance in Staffordshire was down by 2.3%. We had a little look at what was already out there, which, as you can see, the example, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, is like the national campaign, and it didn't go down very well in the media, and didn't go down well with parents. And the easiest thing for us to do was to just share what they've done and just take the hit. But we didn't want to do that. We wanted to do something different in Staffordshire. We wanted to support children and do something that works. We had a look at the reasons for children missing school, and the main outcomes were mild illness and mild anxiety. So we had a little look at what can we do to inspire and empower children to attend school every day. So the objective for the campaign was to support primary school children to attend school every day. And here we have Little Heroes. Created a very simple message. So HERO stands for here, every day, ready, on time. Something that will very resonate with young children. And feel free to take a screenshot of this, but this will be shared later. We can find out more about the campaign and some videos that we've got as well. To find out all about our Little Heroes. These 2 characters I designed myself as well. So everything that you see and everything that I speak about today, yes, I had support from different colleagues and different expertise, but I wrote and created everything myself. So these 2 characters were created for free on Bing Create. So yeah, no designers used either. So they're just using the free tools of the wonderful AI, no matter how how people judge it. I thought it was a great tool to help with this campaign. So what is Little Heroes? I will talk about it myself, but she does it in a much cuter and better way than me. So feel free to sit back with a cuppa and have a listen.
Hero stands for
We hear that one?
every day, ready, on time. Little Heroes is a way to make sure everyone's here on time every day. We need to be at school so we can learn Feed our minds with information and see our friends. You get a sticker, and if you do so for the whole month of the year, you get a special certificate for your achievement of how far you've got.
So Little Heroes campaign is about supporting pupils and parents to get them into school more often. We do struggle nationally at the moment. There's been a dip in school attendance, and I know that Staffordshire County Council, at schools, we've seen a dip of about 2.3% over the past 12 months. So this is about supporting and encouraging children to come in school ready and on time, and also to offer any support for parents who are also struggling to get their children into school. One particular teacher said that they'd had a 20% attendance issue within her classroom, and that currently under this scheme has now dropped to 6%. And when I came to the school this morning as well, I heard a parent outside talking to a child, and the child was saying, I need to get in there because I want to get my attendance certificate, and I want my sticker as well. So it's great to see that parents and children are both very keen to get into school on time.
So we've been part of the Little Heroes campaign since summer 2024, and it's really helped and had a positive impact on our children attending school and also being here every day on time. It's supported their well-being with various activities, and also had a positive impact for parents as well. We were asked to be part of the trial, and it had a real positive impact we had good feedback from staff and also parents who were keen for us to continue it this year. So when the opportunity came for us to be part of it, we jumped at the chance. I had an email from one parent at the end of the year that asked if we were doing it again, because it really helped and had a positive impact on their child coming to school every day and being here on time. And the children really enjoy it. They love getting their stickers, they love getting the certificates at the end of the month. It's just been an all-round positive experience. In the booklets that the children get to take home, there's some lovely activity in there about supporting your well-being if you've got worries, and also some lovely mindfulness activities to do at home, and we also practice that in school with the children as well. The children seem a lot calmer and ready to start the day when they arrive.
I have got a few stickers and 2 certificates from it. You can earn some too. Here, every day, ready on time.
So I will dive into some more detail to give you an overview of the campaign, but like I say, she does it in a much cuter way, doesn't it? So what is the Little Heroes campaign? So we split the campaign into 2 parts. So the Little Heroes part, they're here every day, ready on time, was the fun, motivational type of messaging. And then we also had the Helpful Heroes, which was gentle, emotional type of language to help with the anxiety side, because illnesses, like, yes, your child will get sick, and I think because of COVID, it was kind of like, oh, if they've got a sniffle, they can't go in, or they've said that they feel a little bit sick, so then they're off school. So it's kind of like encouraging them to, if you just feel a little bit ill, you can still go to school, and that just seemed to change just by magically having like those messages of here every day, ready on time, knowing you're going to get a sticker, knowing that you're going to be rewarded for making the effort to come to school. We have had some fun anecdotes of like a child waking their parent up at 5 o'clock in the morning saying, I'm ready to go to school, I want to, and you're just kind of like, okay, sorry, so sorry to that mom. She definitely needs some Starbucks vouchers off us for things like that. But at least you can see that it was resonating in their minds. But we didn't just want to be like, okay, give them a sticker and that's job done. And that's not going to help the kids that were suffering with anxiety and genuinely had worries about going to school. And we wanted to give parents and schools and the children a tool to support them to do that, and to manage their anxieties, but to do it in a heroic way. To make them feel confident about coming to school. So I will talk through the booklet that we did, but basically we've got a campaign kit with Helpful Heroes and Little Heroes resources. We trialled it with 19 schools, And I say 19 because my target was to get 20 schools, and I could not get 20 schools to sign up to help me. To get schools to do anything can be quite tricky, as I'm sure many of you have experienced yourselves. And we tried to make it as simple as possible, so everything was done that you just needed to be handed out. So yeah, 19 schools helped me with the trial, and then based on their feedback, we then created the official campaign kit that we could then launch to every school in Staffordshire, every primary school, sorry. And the response has been fantastic after seeing the campaign in action. So now we have over 80% of primary schools signed up to the campaign. We've got 303 primary schools in Staffordshire, and we've got 258 schools that are part of this campaign, which is absolutely fantastic. We are doing this, we started it from the bottom, because where do you start when someone says we need to boost school attendance in Staffordshire? So the right way to do it was, okay, let's start from key stage 1, and we'll just keep tweaking it until it helps children across the board. Moving on. So here's some examples of what was in the campaign starter kit. So you had your posters, your cut out characters, a lot of this of what you've seen in the video. You've got the banners as well on school gates, for them parents can find out more as well. And then the helpful heroes sides, two different characters with this powerful message of every hero has worries, but together we can manage them. And the booklet was originally 12 pages, but after feedback from the trial schools, it's now 20 pages. And that was more children asking questions like, why does my body do that? Why does this happen? And it was brilliant because it showed us that children were engaging and actually speaking up about it and asking those questions. So we thought, well, let's answer those questions, let's help them. There's a lot of mindfulness exercises in there as well. For instance, 5-finger breathing. 5-finger breathing was something that some children knew about, but it wasn't put across in this way. It was more of like a sketch of a hand, for instance, which just by making it a little bit more Marvel and a bit more like, yeah, I can own this, I can do this, it turned into something cool that they could do, and they didn't feel like shy about doing it. It was like, I'm doing my 5-finger breathing to calm myself down. So just giving that sense of empowerment that it's okay to worry. I worked with educational psychologists to pull this book together and to make sure that we were using like the right colours and the right type of exercises in there as well. I did speak at the UnAwards because someone asked me, how did I know how to make a booklet? How did I know what type of exercises to use? And one of them is the experts that I spoke to, but also I have anxiety myself. And I just thought, well, I go to these counselling sessions. This is what I get told to do to manage my anxiety. How can I rework that to help children? Maybe I should have just read my own book, to be honest, and to help myself. But it was kind of like, as long as you can talk to that child in that way and make it clear to them of what they can do, then it can support them as well. And it clearly is. It's great to see that it's having such a positive impact on these children. Here's just some pictures of the Helpful Heroes books in action. We had lots of children like filling the booklets out during class, some take them home. We made it very flexible of how the booklets could be used, but what we were quite strict about was it wasn't, okay, hand out a booklet to every child. It was made clear to the school of these booklets should be used for children who are struggling or who you can see could do with that extra support. And also letting the parents know as well, if your child is struggling with anxiety, then come and speak to a member of staff and see if this booklet can help them. So just some campaign outcomes for you. Children are taking control of their own well-being. They're doing the booklets on their own and managing their feelings. They're doing the exercises on their own, which is just fantastic. There has been a culture shift in attending the school every day and being on time, and with the children and with the parents as well. The booklets are also just broken that barrier, if you like, of having that conversation with parents and children about mental health, because it wouldn't be something that you could necessarily go to the doctor with, where it's just, oh, my child doesn't want to go to school and we don't know why. There wasn't really much out there to kind of break that barrier and have that conversation, and the book is just a great tool to be able to do that. And we've had parents like coming back, feeding back about the campaign, to say, like, just thank you for just producing something that has helped me have those tough conversations with my child. And they're also learning things themselves, because, like I say, my weakness, if you like, is anxiety, but I want to be able to have created this campaign without actually going through it myself. So if you are lucky enough not to have experienced any mental health issues or any anxiety in your life, it's probably new to you. If your child is saying, I'm feeling worried, you're probably like, I don't know why. But if this can break those barriers, have those conversations, then it's doing a fantastic job. And it's good to get that feedback from children and from parents themselves. It's also had some national recognition. It's been on Midlands Today. It's been in lots of local news, which has been fantastic. But it's also been mentioned in Ofsted reports as well, about the increase in school attendance, and Little Heroes has been mentioned of the reason for that increase. So I've also had meetings with Ofsted, because they were like, hang on, we just keep hearing about this Little Heroes, what is it? So had those conversations with the top guys at Ofsted as well, to talk about the campaign. And this is just a quote for you from one of our Little Heroes that used the Helpful Heroes book. So he said, sometimes I feel nervous, a little bit sick about going to school, but since I got that book, it's really helped me. I really like the workbooks. The activities help me a lot and make me feel calm. My favourite is the 5-finger breathing exercise. When I do it, I feel calm and not worried anymore. And that's just from a 7-year-old little boy that the Helpful Heroes workbooks are making a difference to. So I can give you all the stats in the world, but just knowing that it's making a difference, even if it was just to one child, means the world. So thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Danielle. If it's okay, well, first of all, thank you so much for that. Not only has it got loads of brilliant insights and evaluation, I really was moved to your kind of lived experience and sharing that. So thank you. I think it's also hit a real personal connection with me in terms of my eldest daughter potentially having some of those kind of worries, and perhaps I'll see if I can get a copy of your booklet for my parenting technique. So that's fantastic, and as well as that, DIY animation that you obviously took on, really using those kind of experts in terms of those educational psychologists. If it's okay, Danielle, I'm just going to put a couple of the questions to you straight away, because I think they're really prominent. So Natalia, if I've pronounced that correctly, is just asking about the main reasons for some of that low attendance in schools. And then I think JP is just asking a similar idea that I had about whether you've thought about licensing this campaign from Staffordshire. So I think that would be fantastic.
Sorry, the first one, I'm not clear on that question. Sorry.
Can you please share the main reasons of low attendance at school, if you know it?
Yeah, it was mild illness and mild anxiety. Those were the main reasons for low attendance. Another one was obviously holidays, but that's a completely different kettle of fish. So it was kind of, what can we do about the main reasons, which were showing us those top two. It seems to be the same in secondary schools as well, which is why we chose to focus on the Helpful Heroes anxiety side of things. It wasn't just like picking a random idea. It was okay, this seems to be a barrier of for children not attending school, so what can we do to support that?
Brilliant. Thank you. And I think the other question or comment from JP was around, have you thought about whether other councils could license this campaign from Staffordshire?
Yeah, we get that question quite a lot, and we are working in the background to see how we can do that. It's helping children, so if anyone can just make use of what we've got, why waste people try recreating the wheel of something that already exists as well. So yeah, it'd be great to be able to work with other councils and just say, like, here's what we've done, like, you know, here it is, you can like download it, you can print it off. I think that'd be the only thing, because the booklets are like quite costly for printing, so it'd just be what's in the budget for councils, for other councils to then have their own copy. But yeah, it's definitely something we're working on in the background to see what's possible.
Brilliant. Thank you, Danielle. And I promise I'll just put this final question now to you, and then we'll bring in JP to focus a little bit more on fostering adoption, but then we'll keep the questions coming. So I think the third question from Andy Robbins is, just a little bit more detail about the use of AI to create the characters. I know you've got a little bit of insight that you shared at last week's session in Birmingham, but I think the question here is also, did you have any pushback from internal graphic designers or even any issues with sticking to the council brand guidelines?
Well, thankfully, I think when you work in comms, I know every comms team is different, but I've got those people in my team. So at the time, we had one graphic designer who was overloaded with work, and we have our external designers that we can also go to. But one of these things about keeping the cost down as much as possible, AI was quite new, and I just thought, I wonder if I can actually create something myself, because I've got a vision. I am quite creative myself anyway, but if I actually started to sketch these characters, and I was like, oh, I wonder if whatever's in my mind, I can do it with the AI, and I could. So before I pitched it to anybody, I went to our brand manager and asked her advice, and she was just like, as long as you are keeping everything our colours in terms of the booklet, which was also tricky to do when then you're working with educational psychologists that saying you can't use XYZ colour. So yeah, it was a struggle, but I spoke to the right people first and kind of got them on board before it went anywhere else. So I used Bing Create, if you're asking what tool that I used. And yeah, it was just basically being very descriptive in what you want, and AI will take you there eventually. You will have some wobbles, you will have some very scary looking characters if you're looking to do anything similar. But all I would say is bear with it and give it a go. And if not, then I guess you will have to go to a designer, but it did work in my favour eventually.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Danielle. I think we've all or most of us have done a little bit of trial by error for some of those LinkedIn type AI characters with mixed success, definitely from myself. But we're just going to move on to our second speaker, but please do keep your comments and questions coming through to Danielle. And just while JP is uploading his slides, I'll give a brief introduction. Sure that many will know, many of you will know Jean-Paul Danon, who is CAN's collaboration director, and he's going to be talking about the paid media campaign strategy that has led to dozens of local authority foster care recruitment teams seeing an uplift in quality inquiries. So take it away, JP.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Andrew. And what a fantastic campaign, Danielle. Really, really well done. My question wasn't so much that you should make money out of the campaign, more just about, giving access to other organisations. I bet you councils all over the country could really do with taking that. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what we've learnt from running paid media campaigns, mainly across foster care, but also to promote adoption and children's social worker recruitment across the UK. We're going to cover some challenges and common challenges and uncomfortable truths. some examples of what works and some core strategies, how those can be applied then to adoption and children's social worker recruitment, and at the end a little challenge to you and your organisations. So CAN helps over 40 councils now run all of their paid media buying for foster care recruitment. But our biggest collaboration was when 108 councils chipped in to create the foster care film project, where every council got a really beautiful foster care film, which if you look up, you can probably find. So we're very much about helping lots of councils all at the same time achieve their objectives. And over the years, we've managed to help many organisations double, treble, quadruple, and in some instances achieve a 5 times reduction in cost per approval, or to put that another way, get 5 times more quality inquiries for their budget. There is a huge disparity in terms of outcomes in foster care recruitment across the country, and we're learning some of the things that help address that. Here are some really basic principles that we apply to everything we do on paid media, but really apply in children's social, in children's services amplification. So firstly, it's really important to make sure that what you do reaches 90+% of your target audience, as near to 100% as possible, and that you include stories so that people understand what's going on and really connect with what you're trying to say, and that you have a mix of, yes, digital, but also physical and human. That ensures that your campaigns are as accessible as possible. We also believe that in the principle that everything that communications do accelerates savings. And so we believe in getting to a point where you can demonstrate how many pounds you've saved your children's services department for every pound that's being spent, and what you've saved them as well on, should we say, moving from less capable media channels to more capable media channels, and potentially as well connecting campaigns. And underneath all of this, underpinning all of this, is that we shouldn't do things when we can't measure them. And so we need to be able to demonstrate that we've reached the target audience lots of times. We need to demonstrate the connection between what we do and all of the outcomes, and then translate that into savings. And almost number 3 is probably the most important one, because if you don't have number 3, you can't really prove the other 2. And so we support comms teams in doing this wherever we work. Just to zoom out a little bit and hopefully to make the case for doing this well, or to increase intolerance for not doing it well, there are more needs being addressed by local authorities than ever before in terms of children's services interventions. There is a falling number of in-house foster carers, which is leading to increasing costs on IFAs, on agencies, and unfortunately when there aren't agency carers available, spiralling costs around residential care. So there is a huge cost incentive to get this right and to do this better, but the main motivation is about outcomes for children where you are, and there is evidence to prove that in-house foster caring is the best way of ensuring long-term outcomes, long-term positive outcomes for children. And it's also about averting some of the increasing cyclical, highly unfortunately predictable risks that arise when children aren't looked after as well as they possibly can be. And that costs the whole system and society. So we would argue that foster care recruitment and doing it well might be the most important communications task that there is. Yet, and these are not, this isn't about attacking anyone, but these are things that we've found that are common challenges. You often have brilliant social workers making communications decisions. And if you flip those 2 roles, brilliant communicators making decisions about social care interventions, maybe the ludicrousness of that becomes evident. You have very slow lags on evaluation, and maybe not comprehensive evaluation all the time, and sometimes no evaluation, just habitual repeating of tactics. And that means that sometimes you get spend on high cost and low yield channels. So there's a lot of spent on above the line channels like TV, sometimes radio, cinema. And unfortunately then, when people talk about that, other councils copy. And so you get a proliferation of these suboptimal channels being invested in. And what happens then is that the council invests lots of money at the top of the funnel. And guess who's sitting in the search results when people go and look on Google? The IFAs block it out. The council is often not featured in the top 3 search results as a result of that. And so the council's paying, and the agencies are then taking those interested people and selling them back to the council. And this is a strategic blunder of phenomenal proportions. There's also the issue with poor user experience, not just the landing pages, but also the follow-up that people receive, and the nurturing of people who are potentially interested in fostering. That's a common challenge. You also have digital governance and web teams blocking the use of advertising technology that is absolutely essential. And then this all compounds to a lack of faith from SLT in the capability of communications, meaning that you get reduced investment in foster care marketing, which is a tragic situation considering the previous slide. And so we've done a lot to try and turn this around for people. Now, there is a common challenge in communications, which the Georgia Turner framework addresses. We're big fans of the Georgia Turner framework. What it helps people and comms people do is shift from a publisher mindset towards a performance mindset. What we often get are comms teams being asked, I need a video. Can we do a press release on this? Can you do us a social media post? We want a leaflet for this event. Can you just? Now, those are tactical conversations. And unfortunately, there isn't a lot of pushback to teams, to children's service directors and so on, to ask questions that move that conversation into the strategic area. So what happens if we do nothing? Well, our spend on agencies and residential care will increase. How much will that cost? Okay, so what do we want to see in the next 3, 6 or 9 months? And how will we know this has worked? These are very important questions which lead to then conversations about savings, targets, modelling, investment, reporting, and so on. And so I referenced this framework because it's totally applicable to what we're doing in foster care recruitment. It is absolutely essential that you evaluate what you're doing in real time, not once a year, not once a quarter, but constantly. If you're not seeing this graph, campaign interactions versus requests, requests for information, incoming inquiries to the fostering team, you cannot optimize. So this is an essential linchpin. And if you don't have this graph, that's probably why you haven't been able to optimize historically. So if your in-house team or a media agency you're using isn't giving you this, you need to get it from them. I just want to give you some insight from around channel choice very, very quickly that helps diffuse some of those suboptimal channel choices. This is a campaign, not foster care related, but did buy a lot of out of home, a lot of radio and so on. And what we're able to see is which things drove interaction. And we could see that paid digital had about a 29p cost per interaction, and that all other paid cost about £81 per interaction. Now, I just want you to use this device to communicate what a big gap that is. If I rang you up and said that I would reduce your energy bill by a factor of 2.7, you'd probably switch. If I said I'd reduce it by a factor of 27, you'd switch and probably tell your friends and family about it. That's £100 down to £3.50. That is a 277 times improvement. Now, that is like going from £100 down to 30p. It is equivalent to your 45-minute commute being reduced to being beamed home in 9 seconds. Okay, so we can't underestimate or understate the impact of that. Yet, unfortunately, we see a lot of investment in channels that don't work and very little investment in the channels that do. And as communications professionals, our objective should be to advise the services that we look after to do this. Reduce investment in things that don't work and look at stuff that does. And that will radically improve outcomes in a really important space. And it means making tough decisions like avoiding paid channels like TikTok, like X, like Nextdoor, and like LinkedIn. They just don't work. We know this from working with many organizations. But also pushing back on requests for radio, TV, out of home, unless it's free, and local media publishers. We know it's not true, and this can probably be the most valuable thing you do, is to stop the council buying these things for foster care recruitment and for many other campaigns as well. Saying that, however, that doesn't mean that out of home is intrinsically bad. It just needs to be out of home that you as the council own. So councils are the biggest media owner in their area, but they are very rarely using their out of home estate to drive foster care inquiries. They're very rarely using advertising on their website to promote fostering for free. They're very rarely putting ads like Surrey do in their newsletter to promote foster care. This is free. It's easy, and it generates awareness without any spend. So thorough and very strong recommendation of using council estates to do this. It is a unique superpower that councils have over the IFAs. We also recommend targeted use of direct mail to low-income households, to the grudgingly digital, and also to the digitally divided households. And we've got ways of mapping those for you, so that your optimal amplification mix for foster care recruitment is your owned estate, your digital and physical, targeted direct mail, the Google infrastructure, the Meta infrastructure, so Facebook and Instagram, although less and less, because we're finding the quality of that is reducing, and sometimes Snapchat, particularly for the younger female audiences. That's how you reach them. You may be familiar with the marketing conversion funnel, but that's where these things sort of sit on that, and remarketing and search are where you put your pounds first, and then you build up from there. On the UX side, how common is the left-hand vision where you're really not asking anyone to do anything very quickly when they land on your fostering pages? And so what we insist on is creation of specific landing pages with calls to action in view, and these have a dramatic effect on performance. We also, when doing social, look at in-platform lead gen. Social platforms don't like you putting links in or leaving social media, and so these are working really, really well. And then it's absolutely essential that you collate all the platforms, all the activities, and map those interactions against submissions. And if you're not doing this, you won't be able to improve. So you have your funnel, you're then able to measure everything, see what's going on, and only then can you optimize. And you must be asking in-house teams, if you've got the capacity, or agencies if you don't, for this as an absolute minimum, or else it just won't work. And that means we can over time nudge away from tactics that don't work to tactics that do. And in general, what we're finding is that once those tactics are adopted and the old tactics put down, we can generate £19 of savings, at least for children's social workers, children's social care departments, for every pound invested from communications. But it requires, adopting all of those approaches, and that's in year. So well worth doing, and hopefully this stat is really useful for getting buy-in for doing that. So just going back to those uncomfortable and common truths, this is what works. So the comms teams have to be involved and support the foster care recruitment campaign. If they're not, the chances of going off piste and doing suboptimal things are maximised. You must insist on always on evaluation, weekly at least, and optimisation. You've got to stop and block all above the line spend, all of that stuff that doesn't work, and switch that budget to search, remarketing, and owned channels. You'll see an immediate doubling, trebling, or quadrupling in impact if you do that. Borrow what works in other areas. Get to the position then where the council is beating the IFAs to being top of the search results. That is possible if you stop doing the above the line stuff and switch to search. This is you cannot compromise on landing pages. It's non-negotiable. If the web team aren't going to support you doing it, you need to build one and also then build in email nurture and make sure that the team that are following up are personable, responsive, respond quickly, and give those people a really good experience. It's much more like customer service than social work. And make sure pixels are installed everywhere, that you have machine learning enabled, because that will make the buying platforms work better. And then always be working to demonstrate savings. So what we've invested and what we've got back. And if you do that, you'll get more money to invest. So there's your checklist. And if you do all of those things, you'll transform the impact and the effectiveness of the marketing, but you'll also then accelerate positive outcomes for children in the area. And we know and are utterly confident that if you install all of those things, your performance will improve and you'll see the impact of that performance. So looking at then adoption and children's social worker recruitment, this won't be a surprise to you, but all the same principles apply. And it's essential that you make sure that those elements come into place. Now, I won't go on about this for too long, but when we applied these elements in Stoke, they'd had some challenges with Ofcom ratings. They engaged a really good creative agency, Alive with Ideas. Overall investment, creative plus media, was about £33,000. And in year, they recruited, I think, 35 children's social workers, saving them about £1.5 million on agency. And they used this beautiful, impactful creative, but they also had the leader for children's services, the elected member for children's services, and the director of children's services talking about their commitment to changing the service and inviting people to come on board to help them shape that service. And those creatives worked incredibly well. So search ads were placed against terms that only children's social workers would type in. We have this very special list. And then people were nudged to engage with this content, and then over time were made contact. Now that was so successful that other organizations have taken that approach. So much like licensing Danielle's or borrowing for free Danielle's campaign, Sutton have saved themselves a lot of time and money developing the creative suite and paid a fee which covers all the tailoring and all the work that needs to be done to tailor that to Sutton. And also some of that fee keeps Stoke's children's social worker campaign running all the time. So it enables them to recruit even more. So that brilliant work means more positive outcomes for Stoke, and it means time saved and money saved in Sutton. So something really, really positive there. So I would just like to end with a challenge, and I'd like you to think 6 months ahead from now. Will your organisation have implemented all of these things? Because if not, you're probably losing out on many tens of thousands of pounds of savings. And if you're not confident that your organisation will implement all of these things, maybe let the team here help. There's Matt, who can help make the case to children's services directors. There's John Cooper, who used to work in foster care recruitment and now helps all the councils that we work with. And there's me, who isn't quite the expert, but can certainly help on any front that you like. Think about yourselves 6 months from now. Have those things been implemented? We can help you in the short term. Yeah, we'd love to work with you.
Brilliant.
That's it from me,
Thanks.
Andrew.
Thank you, JP. Very, very comprehensive, very different sort of campaign case study. I'm going to bring in the two Martins, if I can. First of all, I'm going to read out Martin Dainton's comment or question about where can he and others find out a little bit more about the Georgia Turner framework. And then Martin Boonham, I'm going to ask you to read out your techie question, which I think I understand, but if I can just tee you up to ask that in person, that would be brilliant. JP, where can we get hold of Georgia's finest work?
So I would contact her directly. She has a much better way of framing this. It's about general stakeholder engagement. It applies to almost everything that we do. But if you have that problem with elected members and drive-by director scrutiny, it's absolute gold, and it might be one of the most important things that that comms teams do to back themselves. So Georgia's email address is in the chat there. Drop her a line, and I'm sure she'd be happy to share with you.
Brilliant. Thanks, JP. And maybe we'll see if we can get Georgia on a subsequent webinar as well. Martin Boonham, are you all right to come on screen and ask the question in person?
Yeah, sure. Can
Go
you
for it.
see and hear me okay?
Hello, Martin.
Hi, how you doing? I've counterbalanced the techie one with a more general out-of-home question, just in case everyone's brain gets frazzled by my techie side of things. But
let's take the techie one first, if that's okay, and then we'll come back to you about the out-of-home.
Yeah, sure. So for a bit of context, we have implemented Facebook Pixel at various times. We've had agencies from time to time tell us when they've then used the little kind of gizmos that you can implement into Chrome to analyze whether the pixel's installed, that they don't find that it is. And this then leads to what my question is really. We've implemented it on the Facebook side of things, but I know as part of Pixel that they're pushing more the CAPI, the CAPI side of things, which is around the server side, cloud stuff, just to kind of get more of that data from people when they kind of fill in forms and that kind of thing. The issue that we've had is kind of IT and our digital teams, the web teams, are a bit more reticent around that side of things, because it's that grey area, as I put in the chat, around it's cookie consent. And if it's kind of a bit grey because it's circumventing that to a degree. And I think the issue that we've had is how you actually implement it with all of those cookie consents and make sure that it is above board, whether it's a separate thing in terms of the Pixel and the CAPI, but I think the implementation, it's ended up being a bit of both. So it's kind of a bit two-pronged in terms of implementing that, but also the server side element that obviously comes at a cost because you're paying for the hosting. So it was just a question in terms of whether other councils had implemented that and the kind of conversations that they had to kind of appease the kind of IT teams and the intelligence teams, etc.
Yeah. So I'll bring JP in. I've got a couple of sort of practitioner viewpoints, and then I'll also see if anyone else wants to chip in from the group. Go for it, JP.
Thank you. So we've had hundreds of these discussions over the years, so you aren't alone in them. Unfortunately, one of those discussions meandering on for months and years and then being partially implemented isn't tolerable, considering why we're doing this. In terms of outcomes for children, in terms of savings for children's services, you can't have a protracted negotiation around it. One thing to note is that, firstly, it is legal. Okay, you are allowed to do it. Secondly, other councils are doing it and are seeing the benefits of doing it. The third position I would say is you don't need the web team to do it. We build separate landing pages and user experiences for people all the time. And what we would recommend is, until the council is in market to do what is required, we can't drive traffic there. So what we'll do as a temporary fix is we'll build you a landing page that has all the technology in, and when the digital and data governance people are able to authorize what other councils have that enables this to happen, we'll switch to you. But in the interim, our ability to recruit foster carers won't be inhibited by that argument. That's about the simplest way I can suggest putting it. And that means that we've had to develop at CAN a separate CRM system, a separate landing page system. But we're now delivering these landing pages and CRMs to about 14 councils at the moment, and they're the ones that are seeing the 5 times improvement. So considering the pressures on the system, we've got a fix that sorts that all out, and you switch to that, and then when the organization is ready to do what's required to compete in a competitive market with IFAs, we'll switch that on, but for now it's non-negotiable. That is the only way we've found around that discussion. Now, we are happy to have those discussions with people who are willing and able to make balanced decisions based on data. But what we often find is that the perception of risk is not quantified. And therefore, they are not in market to have that discussion. So you can probably detect the level of frustration and passion behind what I'm saying. But they're able, but maybe unwilling to do what's required. We're willing and able to provide what's needed, and so that's the only way. Not saying that you can't do it yourselves, but you can't wait for that to happen. Would anyone? Should we pause on that before going to out of home?
Yeah, if you just pause there, JP, and if there's anyone else who wants to chip in here, I'll just give a couple of takes from a couple of counties that I've worked at. So one is with sort of Hertfordshire County Council, who had a award-winning or award shortlisted fostering campaign, really successful, was able to demonstrate the the success of using similar kind of pixels, able to demonstrate that through the evaluation. And I think I think from a sort of a position of having to go through that similar type of discussion with web colleagues, I think what we actually found was actually that fostering was almost the best pioneer of this type of technology, because it was actually the least likely area that actually residents would, even if they did have any particular issue with the use of this kind of technology, that it was the best campaign to actually pilot that. I think the other thing, and this is a slightly different subject matter, but I think one of the things that Rich from Surrey got across sort of most powerfully in his presentation last week at the Comms Award, in a different area, but more about data and GDPR issues around their award-winning e-newsletter, is that you do have some choices to be made. And I think JP's highlighted this in terms of demonstrating the evidence of making these things work. There are definitely legal ways to do this, and you need to both have the compelling marketing argument, but also on occasion you have to sort of raise it with some quite senior people, and sometimes I think they brought in sort of the cabinet member to say, if we want to have a successful outcome, and JP's put some really highly effective sort of evaluation results here, you do need to do some of these techniques. So Martin, I'm going to move us on from that issue unless anyone else has got any points to make there. But Martin, do you want to just bring in your question about out of home or income opportunities? Thank you.
Yeah, and apologies for the techie stuff.
Don't worry.
There, but yeah, from a more kind of conventional marketing perspective, as a county council, the dilemma we have with a lot of the owned kind of media is quite often that it falls into the remit of the district and boroughs. So whereas our colleagues at Leicester City, they own those kind of properties, so they're able to use them. The county, we do have certain buildings and things that we do own, but a lot of those kind of typical out of home materials, it's harder for us to maybe utilize, because we'd be treading on our kind of district and boroughs colleagues kind of toes, really. So while we do use a newsletter and we have kind of Leicestershire Matters, and we do use that for kind of promoting fostering, the other opportunities, that's what my kind of open question was, just in terms of how maybe other kind of county colleagues get around to the issue of the fact that we maybe don't own the space as much as other colleagues.
Well, there are emerging trends. We're seeing bus networks being handed to counties in certain parts of the country. Also, in terms of those opportunities, do have a think about actually what exists. It's sometimes people's awareness of what's there: roundabouts, lamppost banners, digital 6 sheets, digital 48 sheets across the area. It's normally a much larger estate than people realise, and normally those agreements do have a percentage for public sector or council campaigns in there. Where you have the county district relationship, I would look at the connections between the comms teams in those areas as the channel to say, in terms of outcomes for children, in terms of priority, this is really, really high. Can we be a default for campaigns? So if you have unsold space, can fostering feature as a default? So it doesn't affect with your priority campaigns, but fostering can be there. A bit like other things like smoking cessation and things like that. Agreeing a default and a fallback kind of waterfall for these campaigns means you'll get a lot more. If that's in place, it also means that the elected members that say, why can't I see, everywhere, you can answer that question. Out of home probably won't drive a lot of response, but it will make it socially normal and bring it from the digital to the physical world. So I think it's really worth doing, and it's a long-term negotiation. What we're seeing is, in some instances, districts handing their bus networks, the digital 6-sheet networks, back to councils. Also, in that physical world, don't forget that the email and web space, ads on websites, ads in emails running all the time, not just mentions, not just a banner on the homepage for a couple of weeks, but fostering always on through your digital and physical estate is something that is, again, worth getting SLT to mandate, right? The savings involved and what's there, it makes so much sense. And I'm afraid that these are a bit like the digital and web conversations, long-term conversations, but are well worth winning in the end. And we can support you in making those cases and prevailing in the end.
Brilliant. Thank you, JP, and thanks, Martin, for asking that question.
No worries,
I'm just going to give final opportunity for anyone else to come forward before we close this session. I'm always trying to keep us on time, but any final questions or comments that you want to ask? If not, I'm going to give JP and Danielle a opportunity to give any final thoughts that you might have. Anything that you want to add?
I just wanted to thank Danielle again, and if they need any help on the framework for licensing, we'd be more than happy to connect Staffordshire with everybody.
Brilliant.
Thank you, JP. Also, I want to say thank you to everyone and for you two for asking me to be part of this. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Brilliant session. Thank you once again, JP and Danielle. Thank you for the comments in the chat. Really appreciate that. And yeah, have a lovely day. Take care, everyone. Bye.